Okay, here, we'll do the Prince Andrew one, dude. Here.
Just as the United Kingdom's unwritten constitution has evolved over the centuries, so has the role of the British monarchy. At present, different people are likely to see the purpose of the royal family in different ways. Many say its duty is to prevent the corruption of government and to...
It's Prince Andrew. As you all recall, here is a man who is unable to sweat.
4 months.
A man who is unable to sweat. Rest in peace to this one as well. He just recently died.
To remind elected politicians that a higher sovereign is always watching. Others say it simply makes financial sense, viewing its role as the British version of Disney World and asserting that it brings in more money than it costs the British taxpayer each year. Some, however, believe that it has no purpose, only the ridiculous notion of outdated traditions and class entitlement, and that the revenue from tourists is simply a myth, presenting the statistic that Chester Zoo has more visitors each year than Windsor Castle. But whatever your views on the royal family...
Damn, that's pretty base that he's just like shitting on that argument. Most people don't know that. Most people don't know that and literally think that that's like a legitimate argument. So it's very cool that he kind of shut it down a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
are as a whole, it's always a good idea not to generalize, as each individual has their own moral compass and personal character. An example of the more virtuous side of the spectrum could be the two central princes. Prince William does a considerable amount of work for charity, which includes helping impoverished children in underdeveloped countries, while Prince Harry volunteered to fight for his country and served 2 tours of duty on the front line in Afghanistan, not to mention the meaningful significance of his matrimony in 2018, demonstrating to the world how far humanity has come, as the first person of black descent was welcomed into the royal family. The progressive symbolism of the royal wedding was truly remarkable, especially when you consider that interracial marriage was illegal in the United States no longer than 52 years ago. Yet where there is prosperity and promise, corruption and controversy are never afar, and we need to look no further.
I don't know if welcomed is the word I would use about Meghan Markle and the royal family. Narrators Kazuma on YouTube, he's a crusty hippie, but seems kind of based.
Than a single week to find a prime example. Many are already familiar with the current circumstances, but for those of you who aren't, here's a quick rundown. On the 8th of July 2019, 66-year-old hedge fund manager Jeffrey Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and child sex abuse. The story exploded into the worldwide media, mainly due to his high-profile social circle, which included Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and Queen Elizabeth's son, Prince Andrew. But one of the more bewildering facts of the whole situation, and something most were unaware of, is that Epstein had already been convicted as a sex offender for over 10 years.
Could you please give us your name?
Bewildering, boys. A shocking revelation. Just bewildering that, people knew that he was a sex trafficker, and yet they still kept up their appearances with them. I just, oh man. As though it's literally not the reason, most likely, that they kept up appearances with him.
Jeffrey Epstein. Is it true, sir, that you have what's been described as an egg-shaped penis? One witness described your penis as oval-shaped and claimed when erect it was thick towards the bottom but was thin and small towards the head portion.
Literally true.
And called it egg-shaped. Those are not my words, I apologize. But as Mr. Critton has stated, that this is a...
His original charges were 4 counts of unlawful sex with a minor and 1 count of sexual abuse, but his high-end attorneys managed to whittle it down to just 1 count of procuring a minor for prostitution, and he served just over 1 year in prison. While Trump and Clinton allegedly cut ties with Epstein after his arrest, Prince Andrew continued the relationship and visited Epstein multiple times at his properties both in the States and also on his private island in the Caribbean, where he allegedly partook in what the media dubbed orgy parties with underage girls who were solicited for sex. One of the alleged victims even went public, stating that she was trafficked and then forced to have sex with Prince Andrew on 3 separate occasions. A photograph of them together surfaced in the media, and many consider it to be substantial evidence to back up the allegations.
How do you guys not remember all this? I've covered this extensively.
On the 10th of August, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein died under extremely suspicious circumstances, with his death being officially ruled a suicide. This only added fuel to the fire, and the public scrutiny aimed at Prince Andrew intensified over the following months. Then, on the 16th of November, he made the extraordinary decision to address the allegations in a televised interview.
We've come to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. Normally, we'd be discussing your work, your duty. We'll come on to that. But today, you've chosen to speak out.
This is one of the all-time worst interviews.
Why have you decided
/ greatest interviews,
now?
Honestly.
Because there is no good time to talk about Mr. Epstein and all things associated.
All of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, who, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people.
This is known as defensive communication. He is responding in a defensive manner due to his own self-perceived flaw. The term, a close friend, is both subjective and ambiguous. Essentially, anyone can label a friend as not being close if they choose to interpret it that way, especially if it facilitates self-preservation. What's more telling is the fact that he felt the need to say it. If he was certain of his own innocence and morality, then he would be more likely to express concern over his own judge of character, rather than attempting to downplay the relationship. It's also important to note his lack of conviction when making the statement.
And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people. And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3.
Should have been like, we have similar hobbies, which is why we ran in the same circles. Similar hobbies.
3 times a year.
More defensive communication. He is now trying to downplay his frequency of visits by using the adverb only, as in, I only visited a convicted pedophile 3 times a year, so there's no way I can be guilty. The simple fact is that the frequency of visits are irrelevant. He could have visited once every decade and still committed an untold number of sex crimes against children.
And
oh my God,
quite
this
often,
video is so good.
if I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, well, why don't you come and use my houses? So
Not a close friend, by the way. Not a close friend, by the way. Only visited his houses even when he wasn't around, by the way.
said, that's very kind, thank you very much indeed. But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend. But he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together. And that's the bit that I remember, is going to the dinner parties.
Instead of just saying, I remember going to the dinner parties, he was compelled to assert that it was all he remembered, essentially stating that anything else that may have occurred was inconsequential, and therefore couldn't have been nefarious.
Where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
Was that his appeal then? Was that what you...
This was a highly expressive and forcible reaction to such a simple question. Imagine if you were in his position, but completely innocent, void of any wrongdoing whatsoever. This would seem like just a normal question, and you would most likely respond in a casual manner. But if you were guilty, your thought process would be constantly focused on the immediate threat of the present moment. And this question could appear more like an accusation, which could be argued was the reason for Andrew's agitated response.
Because you were perceived by the public as being the party prince.
This is a very intriguing moment of the interview. The claim of him being the so-called party prince isn't a damning assertion. Liking to go out and party doesn't make you a bad person, and the claim is completely insignificant compared to the more serious allegations against him. He goes on to claim that the statement is untrue, but closely observe his demeanor and contortions. He becomes far more expressive in this refuting statement compared to the refuting statements made earlier, and the probable reason for this will be revealed in a moment.
Was that something
Well,
you
I
shared?
think that's also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title, because I don't.
Hell yeah, brother.
I never have really partied.
The question was
Literally, absolutely the biggest lie.
non-incriminating, so it makes little sense as to why he would be so stuttery and spurious in his response. It could be argued that this was an attempt to portray his nonverbal cues while lying. He is essentially saying, look, this is how bad I am at lying, so any slightly less obvious tells at a later stage can be overlooked.
I was single for quite a long time, in the early 80s. But then after I got married, I was very happy.
Shaking his head while making an assertive statement, the movement doesn't correlate with the message. Most body language experts would assert that he is lying here, although his heightened state of focus on the more damning elements may have influenced this.
And I've never really felt the need to go and party.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
Also currently in custody, for the record, for her involvement in the sex trafficking. By the way.
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
The expression on his face is as if he's been accused of something, but the interviewer had only asked if he had thrown a party. It's as if the word party has some damnatory connotations to it, hence the worried look, as well as his assertion that it was just a straightforward shooting weekend, whatever that is.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle at Sandringham, the shooting weekend,
Yep.
we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else.
Really? I mean, he had been convicted of it, so.
That was what he was doing.
The next moment is fascinating. He breaks eye contact immediately after making his statement, arguably because it was a pure fabrication, and he wasn't comfortable with the reporter's gaze.
And certainly, when I saw him either in the United States.
He starts off a new sentence, giving a justification for the broken eye contact, yet appears to be trying to think up a related statement on the spot. People do this sometimes when they are uncomfortable. They abruptly say the first clause of a sentence as a means to escape an uncomfortable silence, but they then have to think up the next clause directly on the spot. In the next moments, Andrew realizes that the initial clause he thought up fits in perfectly with his next assertion.
Well, no, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication, absolutely no indication.
Let's watch that again.
And certainly, when I saw him either in the United States, well, no, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication.
He was convicted of
Yep.
soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was
Yes.
your friend. How
Yes.
did you feel about it?
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation, and that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So I just...
Oh, so when you get back to being friends with the dude, this is what is known as the enough time has passed for people to care technique. When you're homies with someone and literally while you're hanging out with them, they're soliciting like underage, they're fucking underage girls they picked up from the high school down the street. What you're supposed to do is,
Hasan.
thank you. What you're supposed to do is, you know, rekindle that relationship a couple of years later when people forget.
It was one of those things that if somebody's going through that sort of thing, well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be...
So no contact?
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there?
No.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always, ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing.
Literally the worst interview of all time. Since it was made public. Like, not before, not during. But when you found out, I was like, fuck, why did I do that? That's so dumb. I think we all know why, baby.
And was it the right thing to do?
He has just confirmed that he only started questioning his actions to visit a sex offender since it became public knowledge, essentially stating that he's only worried about what others think of his actions rather than what he thinks of his actions.
Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. And I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious and...
What phone call? Bro, you don't deserve a phone call, bro. Like, there is no phone call. If someone you know is convicted of being a pedophile and, like, doing sex crimes, you don't give them a fucking phone call.
I felt that doing it over the telephone...
Cut that motherfucker off.
...was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him and talk to him.
Much like a breakup after a long-term relationship, telling someone the news face-to-face is a sign of respect. He has essentially just stated that he still held a sex offender in high regard.
And I went to see him, and I was doing a number of other things in New York at the time, and we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park, and that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
He didn't leave the next day. He stayed at Epstein's residence for 4 days after. It must have been pretty awkward staying at someone's house for 4 nights after telling them you want nothing to do with them anymore.
What did he say when you told him that you were breaking up the friendship?
He was what I would describe as understanding. He didn't go into any great depth in the conversation about what I was doing, or what he was doing, except to say that he'd accepted whatever it was, a plea bargain. He'd served his time,
From Italy to
and
Harvard.
he was carrying on with his life. You see what I mean? And I said yes, but I'm afraid to say that's as may be. But with all the attendant scrutiny on me, then I don't think it is a wise thing to do.
This is also fascinating because the only person who can refute his statements is now dead, and in Andrew's mind, he has free rein to come up with any justification he pleases, but he's about to be caught out.
That was December of 2010.
Yep.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as
No,
the
I didn't
guest
go.
of honour.
Oh, in 2010, that there certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December, because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner.
He once again seems to be very anxious and panicked by the word party, and according to Andrew, having up to 10 people over doesn't classify it as such, making it the more acceptable dinner with a convicted sex offender, rather than the deplorable dinner party with a convicted sex offender.
If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honour.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay, I was there at a dinner, yeah.
I'm just trying to work this out, because you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long.
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of
Yes.
a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
Jeff
He's a royal, dude. Like, you could literally stay anywhere, motherfucker. You could stay at any hotel. You're a royal. You can stay at the penthouse. You can stay at Trump Tower. He's making it seem like he was slumming it with, Jeffy Epp. There must have been another reason why you wanted to stay with Jeffy Epp. Old Jebediah Jeffrey Jebediah Epstein. Motherfucker be like, oh, I had no other place to go, dude.
Jeffrey Epstein's residence was in central Manhattan. There were over 50 luxury hotels within a 1-mile radius, and it's not as if Andrew was strapped for cash.
I've gone through this in my mind so many times. At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one can have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do. But at the time, I felt it was the honourable and right thing to do.
Even if his story was genuine, he has once again confirmed that he still held a convicted child rapist in high regard, someone clearly too respectful and dignified to just be cut off without a formal 4-day meeting at his mansion.
And I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable, but that's just the way it is.
I'm too honorable. Dude, we haven't even gotten to the best parts yet. This entire video is so good. He's too honorable. That's why he had to hang out with the fucking pedophile sex criminal for 4 days. It's honor that motivated him to do such a thing. Make no mistake, sir. It was the honor.
Ah yes, the struggles of being too honorable. If only it weren't for his abundance of honor, God forbid he could have done something like donate to a child sex abuse charity, or bring public awareness to a similar cause. But no, he was far too honorable, so he made the honorable choice to take a secret 4-day vacation in a pedophile's mansion.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls. And you were there staying in his house, catching up with friends.
If they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. I never saw them. I mean, you have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean, in the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that, because I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent.
It was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
Now, he described
Really?
seeing you there getting a foot massage from a young Russian woman. Did that happen?
Hasan, have you had letter B in square?
You're absolutely sure, or you can't remember?
Absolutely sure.
So John Brockman's statement is false.
Well, I don't know Mr. Brockman, so I don't know what he's talking about.
But that definitely wasn't you getting a foot massage from a Russian girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house.
No.
It might seem a funny way to break off a friendship, a 4-day house party of sorts with a dinner. It's an odd way to break up a friendship. It's a difficult way of putting it.
That's a very stark way of putting it. Yes, you're absolutely right. But actually, the truth of it is that I actually only saw him for about the dinner party, the walk in the park, and probably passing in the passage.
You would be hard-pressed to find a more guilty-looking face in the history of investigative journalism. If this was a soap opera, the director would probably tell the actor to tone it down a little bit, to at least give the viewer a shred of doubt that he's not completely full of shit.
So let's go to that Central Park walk, which was snapped.
Damn.
Friends of yours suggest that Epstein wanted that photo taken. Perhaps he'd even set it up.
Notice the oncoming sigh of relief as the subject matter switches from the suspicion directed at him to the suspicion directed at Epstein. He seems to relax as he can finally be genuine and speak the truth for a moment, and notice the complete switch in his demeanor and body motions.
Do you worry that you were being played?
Oh my God. I remember watching this. I did not catch that. Motherfucker's side. That's great.
Be genuine and speak the truth for a moment.
I gotta watch it
notice
again.
the complete switch in his demeanor and body motions.
Do you worry that you were being
That's crazy, dude.
played?
Again, new information's coming out since his suicide has made us reappraise that walk in the park.
He rambles on for as long as possible to keep the subject matter pointing away from himself, but the journalist doesn't take long to put him back on the spot.
July of this year, Epstein was
1-3.
arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
Best part's coming.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
Do you remember dancing at Tramp?
No. That couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
This was a brilliant question from the journalist, and similar to what a criminal investigator would ask during a police interrogation, although it would be posed in one word: why? By asking the question in this manner, she has given Andrew the awareness that the night had to be memorable in order to be remembered. It seems obvious once stated, but this can be easily overlooked in a pressurized situation, and she has now virtually instructed him in how to respond correctly.
On that particular day that we now understand is the date, which is the 10th of March, I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to...
Why would you remember that? Seems like you looked into it. Why would you remember any random fucking night? Unless you literally were like, oh, do I have an alibi? Why isn't he in jail? Because he's a fucking royal, dude. Are you crazy? Diplomatic immunity to the fucking maximum degree.
Pizza Express in Woking for a party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing for me to do. I've only been through Woking a couple of times, and I remember it weirdly distinctly. As soon as somebody reminded me of it, I went, oh yes, I remember that.
This has neither been refuted nor confirmed, but nevertheless, a child's birthday party at a pizza restaurant doesn't last throughout the night, so he could have had sex with a victim after it occurred. Or, this could have simply been an occasion that happened close enough to the date in question, which is the reason he is now using it as an alibi.
Is it possible that you met Virginia Roberts,
Love from
dined
Iowa.
with her, danced with her in Tramp, had sex with her on another date?
No.
Is there any way you could have had sex with that young woman or any young woman trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein in any of his residences?
No. And without putting too fine a point on it, if you're a man, it is a positive act to have sex
Let's
with somebody.
fucking go.
You have to take some sort of positive action. And so therefore, if you try
This is the guiltiest man in all kingdoms, okay? Across the board, across history. Like, no one has been more guilty of a crime that they are being accused of doing than this man right here. This is also, yes, this is the least pedophilic royal. The least pedophilic Tory, bruv. This one right here. What you do not understand is that this is a part of my culture. As you know, I'm a part of the royal family.
Least
And
guilty royal.
doing pedophilia is a part of our royal culture. This is something we must do, and you're being you're not understanding the situation. Never met her, by the way. Yeah, so strange that I'm standing with her, yet I've never met her.
to forget, it's very difficult to try and forget positive action. And I do not
There's
remember
motherfuckers caught on camera that look less guilty than this guy.
anything.
Epstein's housekeeper, also in a Florida court legal deposition, said that you visited the Palm Beach residence around 4 times a year.
Notice Andrew's reaction in the next moments when he genuinely thinks a statement is untrue.
You got a daily massage.
4 times a year?
Now let's compare this to a question he was asked a moment earlier.
Is it possible that you met Virginia Roberts, dined with her, danced with her in Tramp, had sex with her? I'm just wondering, when you look back now, is there a chance that those massages might have been the services of someone who was being sexually exploited or trafficked by Epstein?
No. I don't think, I mean, no, definitely not. Definitely not. And I definitely did not visit his Palm Beach house 3 or 4 times a year. Absolutely.
The specifics are that it was actually 10, not 3 and not 4, but 10. But actually it's not. It's probably like once or twice. I don't know.
Virginia Roberts' legal team says you could not spend time around Epstein and not know what was going on. You could not spend time around Epstein and not know what was going on.
Once again, put yourself in his position, but you are completely innocent. You spent time with Epstein, and you saw nothing suspicious whatsoever. You would know this statement is false, and would most likely respond in a forceful manner to refute it. You wouldn't feel the need to give a lengthy and defensive explanation to try and demonstrate your innocence.
If you are somebody like me, then people behave in a subtly different way. You wouldn't, first of all, I'm not looking for it. That's the thing. Is if you're looking for it, then you might have suspicion.
Yeah. I'm only looking for pedophilia like when I find out that Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted sex offender. You know, only then do you know pedophilia is happening at a at a convicted sex offender's house. So strange. So fucking strange.
Expected now, with the benefit of a huge amount of hindsight and a huge amount of analysis,
WTF did I choose
you look
this
back
one
and you go, well, was that really the way that it was, or was I looking at it the wrong way? But you don't go into these places, you don't go to stay with people looking for that.
You
But
could not
then-
spend time around him. That was what they said. You could not spend time around him and not know.
Yes, you could, because I was there, would be a common response of a genuine person.
Damn, if only Prince Andrew had the hindsight to be able to watch the JCS analysis. Is he in prison? No, dude. Y'all are crazy for thinking this dude would ever go to prison. He's a royal.
Look,
Guys, his family literally did genocide, enslavement of humans, and rape. Okay? Like, that's what they're kind of famous for. Okay? And we just act like that's not recent. Why the fuck? Like, and incest. But incest is the fucking most, like, morally neutral thing that they did. Okay? Let's be real. They are in the business of doing rape, genocide, colonialism, and mass enslavement. Okay? Like, why would he go to jail for fucking, for child fucking? Why would that happen? If that's your expectation, like, you're wilding out.
Another aspect of this is that I live in an institution at Buckingham Palace which has
Motherfuckers, that any tips on how to, any tips for me to inform myself about them? About the royal family? What? A history book? Bro, what? Like literally any history book. Like a single history book. Some of you got to stop watching me and actually pay attention in school, dude. Holy shit. I can't believe I'm saying this, but goddamn, dude, like a book, any book will suffice in helping you come to terms with like the many crimes of the British monarchy.
has members of staff walking around all the time. And I don't wish to appear grand, but there were a lot of people who were walking around Jeffrey Epstein's house. As far as I was aware, they were...
Yeah, that's a good take, actually. We're literally... I'm Turkish, motherfucker. I'm Turkish. Why am I over here talking in English right now? How do you think that happened? Just think about it. Good take, by the way. Yeah. Why am I talking in English right now? Anyway. I'm actually shocked. I'm actually shocked that this person was like, what's up with the royal family? Like, I would like to learn more about, you know, you say that they're like violent, but could I perhaps find, where could I find out more about the violence of the British monarchy? Oh, Jesus Christ. Actually, a shit take though, LMAO. Look how many humans there are. We're all bad because we took territory from the animal kingdom as a legit take. So, of course, the royal family's fucked, but this take... Wait, why is the royal family fucked if not, like, literally genocide? Like, what are you, upset on the aesthetics of the royal family then? Like, they're just, like, too old and ugly? Or was that, like, a vegan who was trying to... Where's the Twitter thread for the cancellation of the royal family? Yeah, true. There is none. There is no Twitter thread for the cancellation of the royal family, so I don't know. But what I do know is it's top of the hour, and it's a 60-second ad break time. A lot of you are already aware of it, so I'm just going to hit you with that ad break right now, regardless. If you'd like to, instead of throwing me tomatoes, just fucking subscribe ahead of time, okay? Before you wait for me to tell you. How about that? Next time you want to do that. Of course, one way to avoid the ads is with a $5 a month subscription. Another way to avoid the ads is with a free subscription, which is something you can get in the form of a Twitch Prime, or you can use VPN, or you can use an ad block if any of those work. But here is the ad break now, and I will be starting the video immediately.
Staff. They were people that were working for him or doing things. I, as it were, I interacted with them, if you want me to say good morning, good afternoon, but I didn't, if you see what I mean, interact with them in a way that was, you know, what are you doing here? Why are you here? What's going on?
But you'd notice if there were hundreds of underage girls in Buckingham Palace.
God.
We are once again about
Wow,
to see a
this
truthful
crime gaming
response,
is incredibly
far more
sponsored.
animated and forceful.
Wouldn't you?
But but sorry, you would notice if there were hundreds of underage girls in Jeffrey's house. Wasn't there?
The number from the reporter was clearly exaggerated. No one ever claimed there were hundreds of sex slaves walking around Epstein's premises.
Epstein is dead.
Yes,
The women are now being heard.
quite rightly.
You've talked about a thick skin. I wonder if you have any sense now of guilt, regret, or shame about any of your behaviour and your friendship with Epstein.
Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming. He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite, in the sense that he was a sex offender. But no.
Dude, it's so funny. Like, ask this guy how he feels about black people. Like, literally. Or Indian people. And, like, I'm pretty sure the words he will use will not be as polite as his descriptors for a convicted sex offender, international sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein.
Happy 3 months. You're one
It's
of the few
wild,
white
dude.
men I enjoy watching. Good job.
Or Irish, yeah, or Irish people. That don't go too far. I wonder if he would ever
That's
call
silly.
like an Irish person unbecoming. That'd be the nicest fucking thing that he would say.
Was I right in having him as a friend at the time? And bearing in mind this was some years before he was accused of being a sex offender. I don't think there was anything wrong then. The problem was the fact that once...
The funniest thing is, like, he literally could say, yes, I've done it. I've done it all. Everything you've accused me of, I've done and more. And I will not reveal the rest of them. But there's nothing you can do about it. And then walk out, and then he would be fine. Like, he did this interview, which was like a gigantic self-report, and his family still protects him. Like, he literally, legit could have been like, yeah, try me. He literally had a time when the sun would have set on their empire. They didn't get there without committing atrocities.
he had been convicted,
Civilization
You
is the
stayed
problem.
with
I stayed with him. And that's the bit that
What the fuck was that?
did.
You stayed with
I stayed with him. And that's the bit
Oh, that was just a. I just looked
that
at us.
as it were, I kick myself for on a daily basis, because it was not something that was becoming of a member of the royal family. And we try and uphold the highest standards and practices, and I let the side down. Simple as that.
This interview.
Yeah, their U.S. prosecutors say Britain's Prince Andrew not cooperating in the Epstein probe. Yeah.
Abolish the royal
He
family.
will cooperate with
and replace it
appropriate
me.
law enforcement agency. There are no plans to extradite Andrew. I wonder why. What do you guys think?
Has been exceptionally rare. You might not speak on this subject again. Is there anything you feel has been left unsaid that you would like to say now?
Finally got a PC
No, I don't
and
think so.
no longer a mobile
This was the
phone
perfect
as
moment to express sympathy for Epstein's victims, yet he was too
If you were in this place, would you have conducted the interview? I'd be like, yeah, I did everything and more. Try and catch
Just
me.
popped out a baby. Where's my
Of course,
child
that's
support?
a dumb question because I would never be in his fucking place. It doesn't matter. Like, this interview literally doesn't matter. It doesn't. He's a royal family member. It does not matter.
self-involved and focused on self-preservation to even realize it. This interview had been an attempt to salvage his reputation, yet backfired in a manner that his legal advisors most certainly would not have anticipated.
God damn, Hasan Abi Moments, curious case of Dahlia Dippolito.
Pog.
Case of Chris Waz, 93K. It's crazy. Is literally a real version Discord server monostereotype. Prince Andrew used the N-word. Former number 10 aide claims. I mean, wow. I'm so shocked. You mean to tell me that the fucking racist dude? Don't talk to the police. Regent University School of Law.
I feel like I've gotten this far before.
It's crazy. He's literally a royal, chat. I want to